Wonderful. Cool.
Yeah.
Now, so comparing two cities, Moscow and Boston, I've never been to either of them. I have an image and imagination of what each one is like, but I've never been there, so I have no idea. So tell me, what are the similarities and differences between Moscow and Boston? Because I imagine there's a big difference.
Yes. Language. um, Also, the way people dress, you could always, well, back then, it's changing now with globalization, but we used to play a game like when you're in the airport taking a plane, maybe in Russia to US, US to Russia. You could usually tell American, Russian, American, because based on their clothing.
Hello, hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, and welcome to another native English speaker conversation between myself, Lewis, you already know that, I'm sure, and another wonderful guest. So without further ado, Jennifer, hello, welcome. How are you?
I'm doing great, Lewis. Thanks for having me here.
The pleasure is all mine. So yeah, it's an honor to have a little chat with you, speak about some different topics. So yeah, I'm buzzing, I would say. I'm excited. Can't wait. Yoo-hoo!
I love meeting other teachers. We always have something in common, and then we discover more.
Absolutely. I think it's a kind of industry and a sector where everybody seems to have followed a similar path with little differences.
Yeah.
It's like, me too.
Yeah, my path is probably a little bit longer, but
So let's get right into it. Let's get straight to the point. And Jennifer, could you do us a favor and introduce yourself?
sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Jennifer from English with Jennifer. My full name is Jennifer Ratio Lebedev, and I'm one of the old folks on YouTube. I've been around since 2007, and I came from the traditional classroom. So I did do classroom teaching. I did one-on-one teaching. I got my start way back in the late 90s in Moscow, Russia. That's where I started, and I really discovered I wanted to teach English. I thought I was going to teach Russian. Then I started teaching English, and then I came back to the US, got certified in ESL, and began teaching at an intensive English program. But then I stepped out because I got a book contract. So I also have had experience writing some textbooks back in the day. And so that was a really great experience. But then I had a couple of kids, and around 2007, I decided to experiment by posting some videos. And way back then, there were not many people posting on YouTube. So it was a great time to experiment.
Hey, this is amazing. So much stuff to break down and dive into. We'll start with Russia. So you moved to Russia, did you say?
I did. I was doing graduate studies through Middlebury College, and they sent us over for an academic year. And while I was doing my studies at Moscow State, I thought I needed to get a little bit of money to eat and things. So I responded to this newspaper ad saying we need native speakers to teach. And I said, well, I could do that. And I responded, and I started teaching one-on-one lessons to kids and businessmen. And then I moved into a private school, where I was teaching kids, teens, and adults. And then I really decided this is what I want to do. I want to teach English. I stayed in Russia for a few more years. Eventually, I came back to the US. I had been certified in Russian, which was a long time ago. But I got recertified to teach English.
Okay, amazing. Like Russian seems so hard as a language to understand and to learn. Like when you compare like the levels of different languages to learn, like I went for the easy options. I went Spanish, French, Italian. So I dabbled in all of these languages, but Russian seems so daunting and intimidating. Like, how was it for you learning the language?
It was better the second time around, in the sense that it wasn't the first language I had tried learning. Like you, back in school, I studied French. And the quick story, I write about it and I've talked about it, is that I guess it's good it wasn't all positive, because this partly pushed me to want to teach others, to avoid what I had gone through. I studied French for like 6 years, started around 7th grade, so 7th, 8th, all the way through 12th, because we go up to 12th grade here in the US. I received top grades, Lewis. They even gave me this little award, and I thought, hey, I'm pretty good at French. I couldn't speak anything when I went to France. I'm like, what the heck? So I knew I could read it. I knew the grammar. I had vocabulary, but we weren't learning for communication. And I thought, what was that? 6 years of what? And I can't communicate. I was so frustrated when I went to college. They had this placement test and they told me to go back to French 101. I was so distraught. I was like, no, I think I'll learn Russian because it was the time of like glasnost perestroika, if you remember, like Gorbachev. And,
Uh,
it was just an exciting time. Well, I don't know if you recall because I'm older
not
than you.
not exactly, but I know of all of these times.
But it was an exciting time. And I started learning Russian because I just found the culture and the history so fascinating. I had gone over to the Soviet Union when it still was the Soviet Union and interacted with wonderful people. And I thought, I just would love to learn this language.
Uh,
So I knew I wanted to learn it to speak it. I wanted to learn it so I could interact with people. I had a clear vision of how I
yeah,
was going to use Russian, right? And so it was a better learning experience than I had with French. Now I'm learning Spanish as a
okay.
beginner. And again, it's so much more fun as an adult because you just lose all your doubts and complexes and you know why you want to do it for certain reasons. And I think our motivation is pretty strong as adult learners.
No, 100%. And just
Yeah.
going over a little bit of vocabulary, you said that you did really well in your exams. So a nice idiom that comes to mind is to pass with flying colors.
Mm.
If you ace an exam and you get 10 out of 10 or 100 out of 100, you pass it with flying colors. And I want to know about like the French. So you were studying French at school with the traditional method, I assume. Did you feel like you were going to be able to speak French fluently when you went to France?
I guess I didn't have the right concept of what does it mean to know a language. There's knowing and then there's using a language. And I guess it was the mindset that I was raised with that, it's a subject in school. And I was a straight A student. The teachers tell me to do something, I do it. And I studied very diligently, thinking that the teachers know best. I will do all the assignments and that will probably I didn't think I'll become fluent. I just thought about knowing French. And I think that's key. You don't know a language, you need to know it to use it. And and I don't think you should have any fear of speaking from the very beginning. We say speak from the get-go, speak from day one. So I don't want a student to wait. I have worked with zero beginners and let's start saying hi, hello, my name is day one. And I did that with Spanish too. The first day I'm like, woo, I don't understand a lot of what is being said, but I'll start with hola.
Hola, ¿qué tal? Muy bien.
And, just every day you learn, every day you take a step, but you keep applying what you learn and you'll receive joy. I said hello, he said hello. Oh my gosh, ¿Cómo está? Like you say something and it's received and you just get so excited by the joy. And it does get harder, of course. There are frustrations along the way. But I think having gone through a few different language learning experiences, I'm better prepared for them. I also did 2 years of intensive Japanese in college. I don't remember much, but the fun of it,
You
I
like a
remembered.
challenge,
I
basically.
I do, but I study a language because something about it attracts me, and I think that's important. You have to feel positive about what you're doing, what anything, and in this case, a
Yeah.
language. What is it that you like about English? What is it going to do for you? And it should excite you, and that's your purpose, and it will help you overcome those frustrations, which will happen.
No, 100%,
Yeah.
100%. And I always advocate like immersing yourself in
Mhm.
English as much as possible by listening to podcasts, watching series, chatting with friends. The more you can surround yourself in this environment, the better. So, when you were in Russia, did you manage to immerse yourself in Russian, or were people kind of trying to be like, oh, let's practice English?
Oh, you do get that as a native speaker, of course. And then I did happen to speak not just a native speaker, but one who actually teaches. And then people want to practice their English with you. He's like, you kind of want to, but I also want to work on my Russian. Um,
Yeah.
I think, it's just you find your ways. I was lucky that I went over there initially as part of my graduate work. And I studied at Middlebury College in Vermont, and there is a language pledge in Middlebury. And when you are part of that program, whether it's French or Russian, whatever, you pledge to speak that language at all times. So when we were on campus in Middlebury, in the while we're eating our meals in the dining halls, in the bathrooms, in the dorms, we had to speak Russian with each other. And it just goes to show you that, of course, a lot of people say, oh, but I need to speak with a native speaker. My answer is no, you don't. I mean, it's great to have that exposure, but there's so many opportunities to speak with other people. English is a global language more so than Russian. So you take those opportunities. And did I gain practice from my fellow classmates? Yes. Did we make mistakes all the time? Yes. But we were gaining practice and giving each other confidence. And sometimes a classmate would say a phrase or a word that I hadn't thought about using or I didn't know. And I'm like, oh, I got to start using that, So we inspired each other. So that's another tip is you don't have to get a native speaker teacher to have all the practice that you seek. There are opportunities around you. Speak with people who speak English.
No, it's great. Like, of course, a lot of people always say that they want to have a native English speaker as their teacher or a conversation partner. But of course, that's great, but it's not necessary. You don't need all of this. And there are many people all around the world from all walks of life that speak English to like a near perfect level, that if you are an A2, B1, B2, even C1 student, it's always good to just like practice because it's like a muscle. If you don't work out, then you get rusty and you're out of practice. So again, the more you practice, the better. Practice makes perfect.
And open yourself up to opportunities. When I was taking a break between undergraduate and graduate work, I went into the cruise line industry because I needed an adventure in my life. And I worked on a big ship in the Bahamas. Then I worked on a steamboat along the Mississippi River. And I remember in the dining hall on the steamboat, this guy sat down and I thought, okay, I'll be a little friendly. I'm not very extroverted, but I thought I was like, hello, hello. Within a few words, I heard an Eastern European accent. And I'm like, I wonder which. So I just asked by chance, like, where are you from? He said he's from Poland. And so I was like, I said like, dzień dobry, jak się masz? I know a little Polish. And then I said, do you by chance speak any Russian? And he's like, yes. It was so funny. So in this dining hall, we started speaking Russian together and everyone's looking at us like, what the heck? Because you don't hear Russian that much, at least on that steamboat. But it just shows you that you never know when you'll have that opportunity. And so just look out and be ready for it. And when you see it, embrace it. And so we became friends on the steamboat and we often speak Russian. And I got such pleasure out of trying to use my Russian again, because at that time I wasn't using it at all.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay, it's amazing, life, right? It's a small world. Anything could happen.
Small world.
And when you started teaching when you were in Moscow, you mentioned that you were teaching like business people and children. Did you have a preference between the two?
It's hard to say. I really do love working with kids. I grew up babysitting. I started babysitting probably at the age of 13. And so and then I've worked in camps. I've had a lot of experience working with all ages. So it's so much fun working with kids, but it's a demanding job to teach them in the classroom. The hardest age group, teenagers, hardest. So
Why? Honestly, I've never really taught young kids or teenagers. It's always been adults.
Kids are fun because you do games and there's so much into games, right? The teens, because first of all, they're not there by choice usually. A few are, but most of them are being sent because their parents are telling them to do it, right? The parents are paying for this extra instruction. So they show up and they're like, ugh, more classes after a long school day. And so a lot of them did not come into the classroom with the motivation. And so I was trying to give that to them. That's number one. Then number two, it's the classroom management. So even when I did my teaching practicum back in the day, I was like 21, 22, I got generally good feedback from the reviewers, but the one area they told me I had to work on was classroom management. I was teaching in an inner city public school. And I had trouble managing my class because they do not always respectfully listen and follow instructions in the classroom, let me tell you. So I think that's also one reason why eventually I gravitated towards adults, because it's so much easier to manage adults.
Oh,
right?
100% with adults. Usually, unless their company is
Yeah,
paying for it and they have to learn because they have meetings, for example, like
yeah,
they're paying with their own money, their own
yeah,
time, which time and money, they're very related. So you know that they're going to be switched on and motivated and trying to improve. And
yeah.
with some students, you might have the fact that there might be a bit like, oh, I don't want you to correct me, which I
Mm,
think is maybe an old fashioned mindset. And now people are embracing these
yes,
mistakes. So
yes.
then they know that they can learn from the mistakes that they're making. So basically,
I
I think that
yeah.
is the way
I
to go.
think if I had stuck with the teen group, maybe I would have I mean, I would have pushed myself more to inspire them and motivate them. With the kids, it's just natural creativity. Like I said, I grew up doing babysitting, and so singing songs, playing games, and being silly came naturally to me. I wanted to write stories for them, and so that was really a fun group to work with for a while. But the teens, I did try. I don't sing very well, but I play the piano a little bit. I remember we're in a school, so I got the key to the music room, and I brought them into the room and at the time, Titanic was popular, so I was trying to get them to sing, the Titanic song, and I
Celine Dion.
yeah, we're trying. I tried to do a newsletter slash paper with them to have them be reporters and write about whatever they wanted, and a couple chose like musical groups that they wanted to write about, but it was tough trying to find the key that would spark that desire. Like, yes, I want to do this assignment because it's fun, it's exciting. That was the challenge for me.
I can just imagine people in a classroom all singing and holding on to each other, being like, my heart will go on.
Everyone loves to reenact the ship scene, right?
Exactly, 100%. So, anyway, you were in Moscow and then you mentioned that you had two children, right?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
Later. I
Okay.
didn't want to have them in Russia.
Okay, and then you moved back to the US. And is this Boston?
I am originally from Pennsylvania, which is the mid-Atlantic, and then I moved up to Boston after I came back. It was a tough time. Very quickly, I'll just say that I came back around 2001. 9/11 had just happened, and people weren't coming over, schools weren't hiring. It was a rough trying to get a job at the time. I was doing some substitute teaching and then babysitting on the side again just to get groceries. So that's my other message, guys, is like you should always be humble enough just to take the work that you need. And I wanted to be a teacher. I knew even then I was a teacher, but if you can't find that full-time job, take what you can, earn what you need to, and just look for opportunities. Luckily, I proved myself in that substitute position, and then they did offer me a full-time job, which then later to other possibilities. I was then doing teacher training. I became part of the administration. So you take that opportunity, get your foot in the door, prove yourself, show your passion and excitement, all your possibilities that you can offer them. And usually people will give you a chance. They will respond. Put your best out there because you never know who's watching.
No, absolutely. A nice
you know?
expression used to put your foot in the door. It's
Yeah.
very visual as well. You imagine that somebody is trying to close a door on you and you
Yeah.
put your foot there to keep it open. So if you put your foot in the door, it's like you get a first chance, usually at the lower end of an organization or a school in this case, to be able to then expand it and increase your position, your wage, or whatever it might be. So in your case, you got your foot in the door, which led to a full-time position.
Yes. Yep.
Perfect.
Yep. Yep. And put yourself out there is a good expression. That's one thing that's always worked for me when I don't always have a clear idea even of what I'm going for, but I'm open to possibilities. All you can do is just do your best because one, you have your basic job, which for us is teaching. You go in the classroom and you do your very best to deliver that lesson. But if you deliver consistently at a high level and offer quality, people will take notice. And that's true of any profession, any industry. Just do your best. Always put yourself out there, though, so that people in positions to help you
Uh-huh.
um, will take notice. And a quick little story here is that how did I get into textbook writing was because in my school, we would take textbooks and use them. There was one point within our writing curriculum, we couldn't find books or materials to suit our needs. And so it was given to us as a task to create our own materials. So we all submitted something. They liked what I submitted. They took me out of a classroom for a month to basically write a 4-level series for in-house use. So that's what I had fun doing. Then a representative from a publishing company had come in to visit and then took notice of the books that we had, including the self-published ones for our school only. And she remembered my name. By the time she went back and rose within her company, she then reached out to me and offered me the opportunity to sort of audition for a vocabulary series. And that's how I got my foot in the door with the publishing company. And then one project led to the other. So again, a small project at one level led to something bigger, because you just take a chance, give your best, put yourself out there.
Exactly. And then anything can happen. You never know where it might lead you. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Now, so comparing two cities, Moscow and Boston, I've never been to either of them. I have an image and imagination of what each one is like, but I've never been there, so I have no idea. So tell me, what are the similarities and differences between Moscow and Boston? Because I imagine there's a big difference.
Yes, language. Also, the way people dress, you could always, well, back then, it's changing now with globalization, but we used to play a game like when you're in the airport taking a plane, maybe in Russia to US, US to Russia. You could usually tell American, Russian, American, because based on their clothing. But I think a lot has changed. I have not been there since 2020. 2002, 3, maybe with my last trip, because I haven't taken a trip. So I can't really comment. Oops. I wonder if my video is still working, Lewis.
Gone off for a second, but don't worry. I'm sure we can find a way around it, and I'll go full screen myself.
Okay.
Then you can let me know if you manage to fix it. But
right.
These are the things that happen all the time with technology. I wish I was in Boston right now to do this in person, but unfortunately, the way the world is, being so globalized, we have to find our way around it and figure out a way of connecting across different continents, because I'm based in Brussels, in Belgium. Jennifer is in Boston. So yeah, we're connecting across the pond. And across the pond is across the Atlantic. So, cool. So yeah, technical issues.
I'm doing my best to rejoin you.
No, it's all good. It's all good. Don't worry. No problem.
But if you can hear me, I'll at least comment briefly and say that...
Yeah, absolutely. I can hear you. So go ahead. People are used to having technical issues. So let's just roll with it.
Yes, we'll roll with it. I guess Boston and Moscow have their charm. Moscow is definitely older, as you know, but Boston does have that New England vibe. So you see more influence. We have like cobblestone streets, which might be a little bit more like Europe. And the actual city layout is not grid-like as you would find in New York City, like First Street, Second Street, Third Street. It's very disorderly, but fun. Public transportation is present, which is not something we can say of every single U.S. city. Public transportation is not easy to come by across our country, unfortunately. It's probably something that we should invest in more here in the U.S.
Yeah.
So that's one difference.
But yeah, who knows what will happen? And we are back. Problem solved. Welcome back, Jennifer.
Hey, I'm back. Sorry about that.
All good, all good. So no, you were mentioning that in the US, you should really be focusing more on investing in trains, buses, public transport, etc. And in Moscow, I think it's like one of the oldest like subway systems.
Oh, it's beautiful. You want to talk about beautiful stations. Not all of them. As you go outside of the city center, then they look more like typical train stations like you'd find in Paris or something. But even in Paris, I mean, it's just very nice to have use of a subway/metro. And it's very nice to have access to public transportation. And again, it's not something that we've really developed here in the US. That's also our culture. We're very car dependent here. And I live in the suburbs, and you just cannot get around without a car. It's a lifestyle. So
Do you think there is the possibility of changing that in the near future?
To some degree, yes and no, but you'd also have to change the culture and the mindset. And right now, Americans love their independence and the idea of having your private space. Even if we're all sitting in traffic, at least we have our space where we listen to what we want to listen to, in the environment we want. But I think eventually, with each new generation, they'll understand the importance of public transportation, reducing our use and our dependence on cars. So I think change will happen, but it might be more gradual
Okay.
than some desire. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I like maps in general. As you can see, I've got a map behind me.
Right.
And then one map that will sometimes like pop up on social media is like the railway network in the United States. And you just see it's like non-existent. Like there's
Mm.
hardly any trains in this entire enormous country.
And it's hard. I remember in college, I dated this guy. I was in the Philadelphia area. He was still back in my hometown of Pittsburgh. And like taking the train to see each other sometimes, it's like a day. And the old train
Yeah.
across, it was like a snail. Or trying to get from my town up to New York City. You can do it, but it's not a schedule with frequently running trains. It's just not as convenient because we haven't built the infrastructure. We do have a train system,
Mhm.
but it's not
Exists.
as
But
nice as like Japan, for example. We don't have any bullet trains.
maybe in the future, who knows?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
anyway, let's get back into you and your journey as a teacher and then YouTuber. So you mentioned that back then not many people were doing it. How did you actually record your first video? Were you afraid? Were you nervous? Did you have imposter syndrome or anything like that?
It was more like, I hope I can do this in 10 minutes and do it perfectly because I was doing it as a young mom. My second child was born. She was just a baby. My son was a toddler, and I had to record late at night while they were asleep or trying to fall asleep or when they were taking naps. So I had a very limited window
Yeah.
to do this. And it was just like a camera record. I didn't know much about editing, so I had to get it right. Just speak for like 10 minutes or less and then upload it. And so it was more the pressure of trying to do things in a tight time frame. But also, thank the Lord, there weren't that many people teaching English at the time. So the audience was very receptive and eager to receive instruction, even if the packaging was really messy, because at the time, again, I didn't know about lighting, sound, any of this. So the initial videos are funny because there I am teaching, but it's like I might have like half my face dark or like the sound was built in. It was a built-in mic. So I had to learn to improve the quality of my videos. And so I'm still not a masterful editor, but obviously I've gained some more skill at it. So one of the pieces of advice I give to people if you want to be a creator or anything is like just go for it. Gain some basic information of what you need to do and then go. You will learn as you go. Two expressions, go for it and learn as you go. And that's the best way to start. Otherwise, you're always waiting for the perfect time when you
Okay.
think you know everything, and that day's never going to come. So just do your best and get started, learn as you go. And yeah, there's a lot of lessons that you learn along the way, but that's a key one. Just do it.
No, 100%. I think with anything, action is kind of the most important thing because a lot of people are kind of listening to stuff or reading stuff, being very passive with learning and developing and professional development. But if you don't actually do anything about it, then you're not going to know where your weaknesses lie and you're not
Mm-hmm.
actually going to make any progress because you're not doing anything in the first place. So no matter how kind of insecure you might feel at the beginning, just go for it, take a leap of faith. And then from there, you can start improving, tweaking things little by little.
Yes.
And we're going to focus on this topic a little bit more now. And I'm also interested in listening to other creators to see what their tips are. And Jennifer, you were telling me that 2, 3 years ago, you wrote a book. Am I right?
I did because I hit the a few milestones. It had been 15 years since I had joined YouTube, and I it's all relative. That's what I want to say is I hit the 1 million mark, which was very exciting because there was a time when I thought it would never happen. Hitting 100,000 was already like, wow. I didn't know I'd hit a million. I kept thinking, yeah, maybe in a distant future. But when I saw that numbers were climbing, I thought, oh, it could be possible.
Oh.
Like I could do this. I didn't always have the faith that I could. And I didn't set it as a goal. I still feel that even though I'm happy that I hit that milestone, I don't think that's the right mindset to have if you're starting on YouTube to say, I'm going to be a YouTuber and I'm going to hit a million. That's not the kind of thing that's going to motivate you video after video. That can't be the reason for doing this. It has to be because of what you want to contribute and share and what you are able to do. That has to be the motivation. But that said, I hit the million mark. I also, yes, I'm coming out and saying wait, Lewis, how old am I? You have to be nice to
I
me.
have no idea, but I'd say
Be
you're
nice and
about
guess.
40.
Oh, how nice. How nice. I'm coming upon my 53rd birthday.
Hey, well, you look
Yeah.
amazing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Aging like a fine wine.
Thank you. So I hit a million. And then within a month, I also turned 50. And I was like, wow, it was a time to really reflect on what was going on in my life. That I feel somewhat successful, but I still had doubts about where I was going and what exactly I had been doing and how I had been doing it. So I wasn't completely happy with how things were going, personally, professionally, and whatnot. And I needed to write. I think everyone can find a form of reflection. I think for many people, writing does work. It's not something that you have to publish like I did, but writing your thoughts out allows you to sort them out and to identify your feelings, your thoughts, your principles, your beliefs. And again, it doesn't have to be a publication, but I would encourage reflection. When you're feeling frustrated in life, you have to reflect then. Why are you feeling this way? What is it that you want out of life? And so hitting those milestones made me pause and reflect and think, okay, what am I doing well? What could I be doing better? Why am I not completely happy? What's going on in my life? And so I just started to write, and not with the purpose of writing a bestseller, but through reflection. Also because there are so many books on Amazon about YouTube, but it's like how to get an audience, how to hit a million, how to make money, how to blah, blah. And I wanted to have a different voice in this conversation saying that I hit a million. It wasn't easy.
Yeah.
And no matter what you see or what you think you see, I still have doubts. I still cry. I laugh. I cry. I'm going through a lot of what some of you are still going through too. And it doesn't matter whether you're at 10,000, 1,000, or a million. I'm going through this too. And I wanted to be honest about that and talk about all the mistakes I'd made, the times I probably didn't make the best choices. Things got really messy with how I built the channel. And I didn't find all the answers through writing, but it really helped me sort things out and decide how to move forward. And the biggest result was that I came to the decision, even though I was feeling very tired about everything, I wanted to continue. And
Okay.
that's huge. When you're feeling frustrated with life, you ask yourself, what do you want? I said, I don't want to stop. It's hard right now. I'm stressed out right now, but this is too important to me and I don't want to stop. I want to continue. But how? How will I continue? And for what reasons will I continue?
Okay.
And it became part of this larger self-growth period. But I had to really step back and look at what I had been doing and how I had been living. And if you're interested, I'll tell you how I came
Yeah,
up with my
absolutely.
definition of success, which I really encourage everyone to do. Define success on your own terms. But it's so hard, isn't it, Luz? Because you tell me when you go into YouTube, what flashes at you? Likes,
And
views, what's your
then it's
subscriber
all the
count?
engagement, it's about the view time, it's about the comments. Nice
And
comments are always a nice thing that can
no,
lift you up if you're feeling a little bit down. But yeah, it's a very addictive thing to do. Like, of course, I'm making these videos because I like teaching and I want to also provide value to people who maybe aren't able to have classes with me, but they can access all of this content for free. But at the same time, I'm in it because I see YouTube as a way of kind of building my own business and building my own reputation. So people are usually in it for altruistic reasons to help others. They're also in it for their own reasons, to be a little bit selfish. I think you have to be a little bit silly if you're not in there.
No, I mean, my point is that the numbers are not something to ignore. They help us. And it's a reality. If we don't have any numbers, we're not making any progress. We need to make progress. But I think if we get too focused on the numbers, it can distract us or prevent us from seeing the bigger picture that is much more important than whether you hit a milestone, whether you get a play button on the wall or something. And would I like to earn more? Yes, I would. But revenue actually has been a challenge for me. And again, it's not the reason why I'm doing this. If it were, I would have stopped a while ago because I could probably make more money doing something else, you know?
Oh, yeah.
But I love what I do. I believe in what I'm doing. And I believe that there's a value in what I'm able to offer. But success, my definition of success has three elements. And I say it's quality contributions, meaningful connections, and shared experiences. And it doesn't matter if somebody makes $1 million if they're not healthy, or if they have a great business, but they have no friends, or if they're, having a successful part of their life, like maybe online, but then things are falling apart offline. The idea is that we want success everywhere. And that was something for me to understand. Like, I'm tired because I'm not sleeping. I'm tired because I'm not taking care of myself. I'm tired because I'm frustrated because I'm not doing everything I want to do. And I thought, okay, well, why are you doing this? You don't have a boss. Change it. change your lifestyle. Make different decisions.
Yeah.
And so I'm very proud to say now, like almost 2 years later, I have changed my schedule. I've changed my lifestyle. I'm not earning anymore, actually, maybe a little less, but I'm so much more balanced and happier because I'm taking Spanish. I have my Russian lessons. I'm doing Tai Chi. I play piano. I take lessons every other week. I walk with my dog. I have time with my kids. I go out to concerts with friends, and I teach. I still do what I love, but I balance it better. And so I'm making my contributions. I believe that they're of value. I get the feedback I need to confirm that what I'm doing is helpful. So what are you contributing? How are you helping others? Because we need that. We need to feel useful. We need to have purpose. But then we need to connect with people online and offline, because we can't just create in a vacuum. We want to connect with people. Lewis and I are connecting now, and it feels good. You need connections, but we also need the connections offline too. There's that balance. And then the shared experiences, again, online and offline. We're all sharing something here right now through a discussion, and that's beautiful. But then we also need to find some of those shared experiences offline as well. So I've really been making a conscious effort to make those kinds of contributions, connections, and experiences to feel like, yes, I'm building the life that I want now, and I'm happier. And I'm also getting more sleep.
I mean, it sounds amazing. It sounds like you've got a very good work-life balance at the moment.
Yeah.
And this is something that you've obviously told yourself that you needed
Yeah.
to change, which is why you came to the realization of
Yeah.
making the book, writing it, and all of this stuff. And it coincided a little bit with the pandemic and COVID.
Yeah.
And that was a time for reflection and
Oh,
thinking
yeah.
everything for everyone. So that's
Yeah.
when you really weigh up like the pros and cons of everything that you're doing and try to rectify kind of what's wrong in your life at any given moment.
Yeah.
So it sounds great. And going a little bit deeper on that, obviously you wrote the book and now you have a better work-life balance. Before then, were you just a bit of a workaholic? Like, what was the thing that you wanted to correct, so to speak?
There's a number of things, but some of it, as you know, Lewis, is like we're independent now, and we don't have someone telling us what you have to do. I was telling myself and making myself work so hard. And I thought, I had these ideas, for example, oh, I got to produce. This is before short forms too. We did not have the option of making short form videos. And you hear the idea that, well, it's 10 minutes. You can go a little longer, but, aim for 5 to 10. But long form videos take time. You can average maybe about an hour per minute when you think about the planning, the script writing, filming, editing, producing, writing the captions and all of that, then promoting. It's all of it together. like a single minute video might correspond to almost an hour of your time when you think
Mhm.
about it. So the long form videos, for me to produce them weekly, as a mom, back then I was still married, running a house, 4-bedroom house and property, it's a lot to take on. You're still in charge of the kids' activities and doctor's appointments and whatnot. It's like a lot to try to accomplish. Plus, doing teaching, preparing lessons, taking care of homework, scheduling. So when you do work alone, you're in charge of everything. I don't have a team. I have not gotten that route of building up a team. I do still work independently. So I was making myself take on more than what was necessary. And it really had to be a question like, well, what will happen if you don't publish every week? Like, the world won't end. I won't die. Maybe I'll actually live longer, and maybe I can produce even something better every other week if I slow down a bit, because when you keep going so fast, it's like, oh, you missed that typo, or I could have done that better.
Yeah.
You still need to keep producing, and not every video is produced with the feeling of that's perfect. If we had more time, we would polish everything, but there is a schedule that we kind of keep to. But I think each creator needs to decide what is realistic. If you don't have a team and you're working independently, be realistic about what you can do.
Clear. And in your case, did you consider going down the other route of hiring an editor, a script writer, and
Oh,
all
no.
this kind of stuff?
Script writing, no, that's me. I'm a teacher. We're not just people in front of the camera. We're teachers. It's like I don't want to teach with someone else's lesson plan. It needs to come from me. Same thing. I do use ChatGPT for certain tasks, but I will not use ChatGPT to write my scripts. It has to come from me, my voice, my ideas. But that said, there's things that ChatGPT can use. But I did use an editor for short form videos for a while last year. I was experimenting. And where she really came into use is because she's a Spanish speaker. When I was documenting my learning journey with Spanish, I found a couple of other teachers online to do some interviews with me. And I cut them up into short little reels, but then I gave them to the editor who speaks Spanish. And she did some nice transitions, and she did the captions for me because I wasn't in a position to write and correct and proofread the Spanish captions. So that was really wonderful to have that. And she did a few other short reels for me. But ultimately, by the end of the year, I came back to the decision that I found a way that I could do the reels and short videos on my own without the setup. Basically, I decided now that most of my short form videos will be with my webcam because it's very convenient,
No,
less setup.
absolutely. Like, I am not a perfectionist in
Mm.
any way. Maybe I should be more of a perfectionist because, like, I use my phone for the majority of my videos that I make. I use CapCut to edit everything. Luckily, because of technology, it's getting a lot easier and less time consuming to add captions, for example, that are usually very automatic now. But even still, there'll be the odd
Mm.
typo. And to be honest, I don't worry about it because in my personal journey, I prefer to be more consistent with maybe less quality rather than aiming for perfection, because then your expectations raise a little bit and you think like, oh, if it's not good or if people don't like it, then it's going to be such a disappointment. So I'd rather just, stick to a schedule that works for me at the moment because I'm lucky enough. Well, lucky enough, it depends on your perspective in life, but I don't have children at the moment. So I have a lot of free time to be able to spend and dedicate to making videos and stuff like that. But of course, when that changes, your priorities change in life as well. So then your schedule will also have to change. So let's cross that bridge when we get to it.
Yes, yes. But it goes back to the idea of whether you're a content creator or anything, think about how much control you have over a certain aspect. Some things you won't be able to choose. Like if you work for a company, the boss tells you you have to be there 5 days a week or 4 days a week. Maybe one day a week you can work remotely. But otherwise, like Lewis and I, we choose our schedule and we have control over that. And for me personally, I've decided to pull back. So I only make long form videos once, possibly twice a month. knowing that I also go live once a month. That's a commitment. And I'm happy to do that. And then the short form videos, recently I've been aiming for 3 times a week. And
Okay.
again, I realized that it would be nice to take all my long form videos and dice them up and put out more shorts. But at the present time, I'm not pursuing that. It's not one of my goals. But I'm posting with a frequency that's comfortable and that still allows me to keep that lifestyle that I'm molding and shaping. Yeah.
Oh, perfect. And being a freelancer, as you mentioned, you control your time and you choose what projects you want to work on. During your YouTube life, have you considered working for other companies and doing like YouTube as like a part-time thing at the weekend when and if you have time?
No, but the fun thing about YouTube is that one of the reasons why I didn't like start a school or create all these courses initially is because I started in 2007. By 2009, people were taking notice. And so I was already getting work because of my visibility on YouTube. And
Mhm.
so sometimes it was a web page that asked for me to create some content or, be visible, do some kind of work. So it was third parties that was giving me an opportunity to create some revenue. So that pattern lasted for some time. And it was nice to know that back in the day when I was certified to be a teacher, this is in Russian, we had to create this physical teaching portfolio with like photos of our lesson plans and our classroom materials and all that. I guess today people do it all digitally, but I actually had this teaching portfolio. But since I've been on YouTube, all the videos and all the work that I've done, that is my portfolio. And you'll probably find the same thing is that I don't have to show a resume. If somebody approaches me for a project, they know who I am, they know what I am able to create, they see my body of work online, and it's really nice. So the opportunities from third parties come my way. I like being an independent contractor because I like choosing. Usually, it could be a long-term collaboration, but I get to choose the level of partnership or the level of work that's going to be involved. And again, it's that ability to shape the lifestyle that we want.
That's amazing. And like you mentioned creators a few times. Now we hear a lot about the creator economy because many people, no matter the age or where you're from, a lot of people want to become their own boss. This is a common dream.
Mhm.
And it's like, it sounds really good on paper. So then it creates this creator economy where you have influencers, teachers, people on YouTube who are dependent on themselves and they're
Mhm.
able to reach agreements with brands, get some money from YouTube with AdSense and all of this stuff. Do you see this trend of the economy continuing and more people wanting to become a creator?
Yes, probably. That said, am I glad that I worked within companies? Am I glad that I started out in a traditional school? Yes, very much. I'm so very happy that my foundation was built in the classroom, and then that would help me transfer my skills online. And I think there's something beautiful about working within a staff, within a group, because you build those kinds of the connections. So it's something that we form, but in a different way as online teachers. But when you work in a school, you have the staff room. And I miss that sometimes, like just the chit
Yeah.
chat that you get in a staff room and having lunch with a colleague, that's all, that's nice. That's part of the whole experience. There's something to be gained when you contribute to something larger than yourself. And sometimes that thing that's larger than you is a company, an organization, a school. And it's nice to feel part of that kind of community. And I think people need to be careful not to avoid that. I think at some point in your career, it benefits everybody to experience what it's like to be part of an organization rather than always feel independent. So I'm glad that I had that in my past, but I still, right now in my lifetime, prefer where I am as an independent contractor. So.
Right. So, with your children, let's say they asked you, like, "Oh, mom, I want to do your job. I want to be a YouTuber, an English teacher." What advice would you give them? What would you tell them?
First of all, they never would because I had them when they were younger on camera with me. And then as they got older, I respected their privacy more. So my viewers have not seen my children much at all during their teen years. And that was out of respect for their privacy.
Yeah.
So that said, they're not going to follow my footsteps. But to any new teacher, I would say, gain your foundation. Um, Native speaker or not native speaker, you need to know your subject matter, right? What is a teacher? It's somebody who has the ability to transfer their knowledge, but you need to make sure that knowledge is pretty sound. We're always going to be searching and polishing and refining how we understand the English language. No teacher that I've ever met has all the answers about everything, and I certainly don't. And I still make mistakes here and there. It happens. But I think that you still need a pretty decent foundation to start, number one. So to native speakers, just because you're a native speaker doesn't mean you're qualified. That's a message out there. Okay. If you're a non-native speaker, don't keep waiting for that perfect moment. I'm not ready. I'm not ready. I would say if you already have the proficiency to function in the language, you can help other learners. So don't take away from what you can already offer, because you are. Plus, you've gone through the process and you can actually see the language slightly different than how Lewis and I see it. So everybody brings something to the table, but the native speakers need to make sure their teaching skills are in place. Gain the skills to teach. And there's different ways you can do that. Doesn't mean you need a PhD. I fully respect those who take that route. I do not have a PhD. I'm not a professor, but I've taken the opportunities to get my foundation. And I still believe that we need to be learners always. And I think those of us who are past like 5, 10, 20, whatever year mark, I'm headed towards 30 years. I've been teaching for over 25. You still need professional development. You still need to be aware of trends and methods and strategies. So we need to be committed at any stage of the game to becoming the best we can be, and it never stops. But you should be excited by that.
I mean, it's fun to continue learning all the time. I mean, as they say, every day is a school day. And what you said about like native English speakers, just because they are native English speakers doesn't mean that they're able to teach. Like with interviews that I've done for other academies in the past, when I'm like, oh, this guy's a really nice chatty person, it's perfect. And I'm like, I need to ask you a couple of questions about grammar. And then I'll ask like, oh, so tell me about the second conditional. Could you give me an example and when would you use it? And then their face goes like, absolutely. What? Conditional? What do you mean? And this is very important that when you start being an English teacher as a native English speaker, you need to go over all of the tenses, maybe not to go into lots of detail, but you need to know the basics to be able to explain it to the learners very efficiently and simply. And there are different methodologies for doing this, but you can't just go in there thinking like, I speak English. Of course I can be an English teacher. Why not? So yeah, do not underestimate the English language grammar just because you speak perfectly, because you were born that way practically.
Yeah. Well said.
Perfect. Good. And I think that's a great way to finish off for today. It was a really interesting conversation. I've learned a lot about you and your journey, and I'll put a link in the video description as well in case anybody's curious and would like to check out Jennifer's book about her journey to 1 million subscribers on YouTube and then her reflections from there. Don't know if you've got anything that you'd like.
Yes, it is called... what is it called? It is called Being a YouTuber. I don't know if you can see it. Being a YouTuber, One Creator's Bumpy Road to 1 Million Subscribers. Keyword bumpy.
Bumpy, like you're on the road to...
That was me. I'm making it to 1 million.
It's a bit turbulent at times. Perfect. Well, no, thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, everybody, for watching. If you have any questions for either of us, do not hesitate to ask. And yeah, once again, it's been a pleasure, Jennifer.
Thank you, Lewis. It's been my pleasure too. Thank you.
Awesome. So see you in the next video, everybody. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. Ta-ra!